Right, so this is the Praetorian Guard again from, I think it's Mandalorian. I've already done one, but I thought it was a little bit big, so I decided to go down a size and make it more the same size as Moff Gideon. And I think it looks a lot better. Now, I did notice on one of the groups on Facebook that some guy was doing a Darth Vader helmet and he was having problems with trying to mask all his lines up on it. And well, this was actually printed. I can show you on the inside. I think this was printed in 8 pieces. So you've got a join there, you've got a join there, you've got a join there, and then the dome itself, you've got 4 joins. So he seemed to be having a bit of problems, like when he's getting when he's getting the paint on, that he's still getting the join marks coming through and stuff. And he's had quite a few 81 comments, I think, on it. Well, I'm going to do a tutorial on this because, as you can see, this was printed in 8 parts. I mean, you can still, I mean, it's got to have a final sand on it yet. You can still see some marks on it, sort of around about this area here. And you've got a little mark, I think, on the back, somewhere on the back. And I think that's it, actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do a tutorial with this piece here, which is one side of the dome. Now what I'll do is I'll show you what I do to get it from this to look like this, and it's only a few steps. I mean, the print itself, it helps if you've got a good nice print. So all I will do is I'll glue it together with normal CA glue, with CA glue. I'll put a couple of dots at the edge here and at the edge there, and probably a dot or a couple in the middle, and then I'll mix up some 2-part epoxy resin glue, and I shall put that on as well. I shall stick them together, and once that's all gone off nice and hard, what I then will do, if sometimes it's really hard to get them flush, especially when you're doing in like multiple parts, because sometimes one part pushes another part out because the tolerances aren't particularly that good. Or so, I mean, this ain't too bad, to be honest. But what I'll do is once I glued that, if there is a protruding edge on it, I'll just get like a file out, not a raspy file, just, you know, like a metal file like this or something like that, and I'll just run it down the seam just to try and flatten that seam off a little bit. Once that part's done, I'll then go in with the soldering iron, and I would solder a crater all the way down here on the outside, and I'll do it all the way on the inside as well. And then I'll just backfill that with some more PLA. Once that's all done, give it a nice sand off, and that's pretty much it then at that point, until it comes to the, you know, the final stages of sanding. Now what I would do at that point is, once all that's done, I'm happy with the way that looks, I'll then give it a coat of filler primer. And the filler primer, because it's all one colour again at that point, it's going to show you any defects or any imperfections or any craters or gouges or anything like that, and then you can address them at that point. And what I would probably do, I mean, this has had 4 coats of filler primer, so it's well and truly covered everything. But so after this stage, it will have a wet sand. I'll probably wet sand it once, just with I don't know, probably something like a 600 wet sand, and then that'll be ready for the grey primer. And then I'll probably put 2, maybe 3 coats of grey primer on, and then you'll have the final coat on top of that as well. I mean, you've got to remember, these are 3D prints, and you do get imperfections in them. I mean, it's like you can kind of see a line here. It's not a crack, it's nothing like that, but when you feel it, there's nothing there. It's how it should be. So again, I'm still working my way around working all these bits. I mean, I could have printed this all in one. I have the first one I printed in one. This one I printed, actually I wanted to do it on a bamboo, so I printed it in 8. So it hasn't come out too bad. Preferably if I'm doing a helmet, I try and do it in a 1 shot or a 2 shot, you know, like a dome, and then the actual helmet part itself. Less joins the better, really. So yeah, once this has had a wet sand, I'll be able to have a final look at how we are looking with it. I can see it still needs just a tiny little bit of work up here. As I say, mainly it needs a wet sand. If you think about it, if you was to have a lip on that, and if you was to put filler primer on that, the filler primer would lay on that, or if you was to glue that together and filler primer that, the filler primer will sit in this gap here, and as you build it up, you'll still see as though there's a gap there until you're giving it a sand, because all you're doing is just filler primer in what's the base is. So you think the flatter you can get it, the better, because obviously the filler primer will sit there, but the filler primer is going to sit in the low parts of the model, so it's always going to pool in that area. So as long as you've got a few coats of filler primer on there, when you sand it back, these two top sides will then meet whatever is going on the join, and then obviously you can then sand that out. Wet sanding is your friend. It really is in any of these helmet builds. And to be honest with you, preparation, put the time in. If you've taken time to print a helmet that's taken 36 hours or whatever some of these printers print speeds they print at, don't do it half-heartedly. Keep going on it. I mean, I've had prints come off before, and I've got to a stage where they're absolutely shocking. They do look shocking. But then you just put the time in. Wet sanding is your friend. Filler primer is your friend. Just keep wet sanding, filler primer, wet sand, wet sand, wet sand. You'll get it to a smooth, glassy finish. And then, as I say, this is probably going to have a wet sand on top of this. Then it's going to have 2 coats of grey primer. And then it will have the top coat of red. It's the red top coat on top of that. And it'll probably have 2 or 3 coats of that. So by the time you've done all those coats, you've got, say, 2 top coats, 3 top coats, and you've got your 2 grey coats, that's 5 coats. Then you've got your 3 or 4 coats of filler primer. I mean, that's 7, 8 coats of paint on at this point. Any imperfections are going to be so far down on the model. So say you will see, if you was to stick, I don't know, if you was to stick a bit of, I don't know, big bit of dust or something like that on the model, and then put filler primer over it, obviously the high points are going to take the filler primer as well, and the low points will then build up as well, and you'll eventually get it to a point where you can sand it, and then that imperfection is gone, if you know what I mean, if that makes any sense. I know what I mean. But yeah, so this is sort of what I've been up to just recently. All the printers are all nice and quiet at the moment. I've got an order for some PLA to come in. I'm having a bit of problems printing with ABS at the moment. If anyone out there has printed with ABS, it's my sort of first sort of go at printing with ABS, and I've had some shockers with it, to be honest. Let me just quickly show you. I'll get it out of the bin. Now, I've never really printed with ABS before. PLA comes out absolutely perfect on the Bambu, but when I printed this, it was coming out of all these sort of, I don't know if you can see them, coming out of all these sort of imperfections along here and in those areas there, and I thought, well, it isn't even worth trying to fix these. So I reprinted again, not in ABS. So I'm kind of a little bit scared to use ABS at the moment. I don't know if anyone, I mean, the print itself comes out all right, but it's like when it gets to corners and stuff, you can't really see it, it's not focusing. When you get to corners and stuff, it looks, well, it doesn't look very good, put it that way. Let's just show you on this on this black bit. You might see a little bit better on this. Yeah, so rather than being a corner sort of like that, which that corner ain't come out too bad, I don't know. If anyone can help me, there you go. If anyone can help me in this situation, if I touch that, it will disappear. It's not very thick. It's not very thick. It's not. I don't know. I'm gonna look into this situation. There's a bit there as well, but it only happens when I'm printing with PLA. So as I say, that's where I am at the moment. Keep your eye out on the YouTube channel, because I am going to be doing this at the weekend. It'll only be a really quick. It'll be a really quick video. So what I'll do is I'll glue it together. I'll do all the welding on it, and then we'll go through the sanding. And then I'm not gonna paint the whole of the helmet. I shall just do a certain area. Well, I'll just do an area like this where I'll do my filler primer and do all my sanding bits and pieces, and then we'll have a look at it at the end. I did this before on the Blast Shield helmet. or part of the blast shield helmet. I'm not sure where that's gone. I think that has found its way into a bin, I think. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. Have a good evening, and I'll catch up soon and wait for the next one to drop. I'll see you later.